Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my live for today. What's going to be our subject? Well, we're going to talk about criminal relief. When someone has a crime and there's no waivers available and they try to get it vacated or reduced, whatever it is, and what is needed and what the biggest mistake is that people make when they get criminal relief and they think everything's okay, only to find out it wasn't done properly. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Then I will go back. I will see what questions you guys have, if any. I mean, it is the beginning of the week. By the way, did all of you have a good weekend? Okay. I'll see what questions you guys had. Go back, answer any immigration questions, and then call it a day. Okay? I mean, at least for the live. Then I have to go to work. All right. So let's talk about criminal relief. So criminal relief, what is it, first of all? So you have a crime. Let me give an example. Let's say you have a theft crime with a sentence of a year. Okay? And you're considered an aggravated felon under immigration law. And there's no way that you qualify for a waiver. And I'm talking about for the green card. If you want to get a non-immigrant waiver, it's possible as an aggravated felon. Not that it's easy, but it's possible. So this is what happens. People hire a criminal attorney. They successfully get their crime vacated. They then go back to immigration. They try to apply for whatever it is they want to apply, whether they now qualify for a waiver or don't need one, either way, only to find out that the whole case gets denied because they say that the vacating of the crime, the vacatur, was done incorrectly or not in accordance with the law under immigration law, and therefore not recognized, and therefore the conviction still stands. Do you know how difficult it is if somebody does it incorrectly to try to revisit it and do it correctly? I mean, as far as the criminal judge is concerned, and as far as the prosecutor is concerned, the crime doesn't exist anymore because it's been vacated. So there's nothing for them to vacate again properly, okay? I mean, there are ways of doing this, but why not do it right in the first place? Why not get it vacated properly in the first place? So what is the biggest mistake people make? Okay? I'll give you an example. It's something in my eye. I'll give you an example. Somebody gets a crime. Again, let's just use the example of, a theft crime with a sentence of a year. So somebody gets it vacated, and let's say the order to vacate says something to the effect, this crime is vacated because the sentence was already served, the prosecutor was able to get what they wanted, which was a sentence of a year, and therefore, and I'm just paraphrasing, but therefore, no issue with vacating it at this point, especially because defendant claims that the immigration is stopping him or her from doing whatever they want. Okay. So what's the mistake there? Well, the biggest mistake is it wasn't vacated because of the merits. It wasn't vacated because something was done incorrectly. Okay? It was vacated for rehabilitative means. It was vacated because the judge didn't see any harm in doing it and decided to help the defendant. The law says that if a crime is vacated because of rehabilitative means, which again is just another way of saying that it's vacated to give the guy a break. not because anything was done wrong, then under immigration law, the conviction still exists. Okay? And it goes even farther. And this is on recent cases. Let's say that the order to vacate basically says this crime from this defendant is vacated, period. Okay, let's say that's all it says. So it's ambiguous as to why it was vacated. And because it's ambiguous as to why it was vacated, it will be presumed to not have been vacated on the merits. And likewise, for immigration purposes, that judgment, that conviction still exists. Okay? So those are the two biggest reasons that vacating a crime has no effect in immigration law if it's not done properly. One, it clearly says for some reason that it's for some rehabilitative means, or basically to give the guy a break. Or two, it's unclear as to why it was vacated. Now, let's go back to my example of, a theft crime of over a year, sentence. And let's look at a order to vacate that would fit and be determinative to show that it was properly vacated and there's no longer an immigration consequence to it. So let's say that the order says this crime was vacated because the defendant was not given his proper rights in pleading guilty, or this defendant pled without the knowledge of the real consequences or the real immigration consequences of pleading and was not advised by an immigration attorney, and therefore the plea was not knowing and not intelligible. Okay? If that's the case, it clearly shows the merits of why the crime was vacated. Okay? And then it will be respected in immigration law. Okay? Don't try to vacate the crime yourself. Don't try to go to just a criminal attorney to vacate. Because what's the use of vacating a crime if the bottom line is, under immigration law, you still have the conviction? I mean, it's less than useless. Okay? So you have to make sure it's done correctly. And that's how it is done. Okay? Now, let's say that it's ambiguous as to why. It doesn't mean it'll be automatically denied, but it is the burden of the defendant to show why it was actually vacated. I'll tell you what, it's a whole lot easier to vacate something if it explains under the merits of why it was vacated in the order itself. But if it doesn't, then the defendant has to bring in declarations, affidavits, has to show evidence of why it was vacated, and has to do everything necessary to show why the vacated crime is no longer a crime under immigration law. Okay? So that's the gist of it. All right. So, let us go back to the beginning of when everybody joined. And I'm going to see if there's any questions. If anybody would like to have a consult on the air in front of everybody else, let me know, and I'll invite you on the air to ask me your immigration questions. Okay? Alrighty. Let us see. I'm going down now. All of these people that joined. I just put up a goal. So if you want to give me a rose, I appreciate it. Okay, Nimbaro Scucci got the #1 gifter badge. So thanks to Nimbaro. Okay, and then now we have a question from Nimbaro. After citizenship, how long does it take to get the oath ceremony? Well, there's a couple things there, Nimbaro. First, I'm unclear if you're saying you've been granted the citizenship. Okay, do you have an official grant of the naturalization? Okay, I'm assuming you're talking about naturalization, because if it was citizenship by derivation, you're automatically a citizen and you don't need to take an oath. Okay, so we'll assume it's by naturalization. If you don't have the actual paper which shows that it's been approved, then that's the first thing you need to worry about, because it might be denied. And if it's denied, obviously you're not going to go to an oath ceremony. Now, if it's been approved, there's different ways of getting the oath ceremony. There's the big ones, okay, where everybody goes to like downtown to the convention center and does a mass, oath ceremony. There's the ones you can get directly from a federal judge. You can call the court and get it scheduled and do it individually. Okay, I mean, similarly, like the bar. Like, for example, I've been an attorney for 33 years now, give or take. And I've just been admitted through what's called reciprocity to the Michigan bar. So right now I'm licensed in California and Texas, but I wanted to get licensed also in Michigan because it's right by Canada. And I have received my citizenship from Canada through derivation, and I'm applying now for what's called a foreign legal consultant, so I can do U.S. immigration law not only in the U.S. but in Canada also. So the reason I bring that up is I likewise contacted a court that the judge gives the swearing-in ceremony, and I'll be going there to be individually sworn in by the judge. Okay, you can do the same thing with the naturalization. You don't have to wait for a large ceremony. I mean, you may want to, but you don't have to. Personally, I find the smaller ceremonies a little more meaningful because everybody's there, at least for the 5 minutes, for you. And it really means a lot when the judge gives it to you personally rather than when you're, in an auditorium with 1,000 other people. Not that it doesn't mean much then, but I'm just telling them my feelings on the matter. Okay. All right, Andy got the number 2 gifter badge. Does that mean we have a question from Andy coming up? Let us see. Okay. Be patient, y'all. Oh, here we go. This is from Bolo Yang. If you have a C1 transit visa, can you go out of the airport? Well, the answer is yes. I mean, there's not the, immigration patrol that will stop you. Okay, there's a lot of people that go out of the airport. But when you have a transit visa, you have to obviously be back to catch the train, the plane, whatever it is you're doing, or the boat at the proper time. Now, if you're going to go out of the airport and you're just going to keep going and violate your status, that's why they made a law that if you're a C1 overstay, and let's say you validly marry a U.S. citizen at some later point, you cannot adjust status in the U.S. because they don't like when people are on a transit visa and just say later dater to the airport and keep going. Okay, so there's that. Let's see. Well, picky pirate just got the number 1 gifter badge. Does that mean you have a question coming up? Let's see. Well, Bolo, you asked the same question again, and I already answered you. Okay, Mo got the number. Whoa. Jeez. It just scrolled all the way down to, thank you, Mo, for liking the live. Let's see. I have to scroll back up to where I was and see if there's any more questions. Let's see. 1 second. You'd think with all the technology there'd be an easier way to see if anybody has questions. Let's see. Okay, I think I have all the questions answered. If anybody has any questions, of course, now's the time to ask them because I'm about to I'm about to finish the live. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed and got the knowledge of the vacating the crime, because I can't tell you how many times people think they're on the right track when they get a crime vacated, only to find out it didn't happen correctly. And so then what I have to do, if that's the case, is try to do a motion to reopen the vacating of the crime, to either get the vacating reversed or to get the order amended so that it lists what it needs to list. Okay? And that's all I got to do. When people say, I got my crime vacated, now how can I get my green card? I say, well, send me your crime, send me the order, let me read it. Let me see what they claim as the situation. Okay. Now, Bolo, you have repeated the same question like 10 times because you didn't think I was going to get to it, but I did get to it. Let's see. All right, let me just make sure. Let me just go down. Okay. Well, I appreciate... oh, wait, we have from Moy let his. Any chance that they change the immigration laws to make it easier for ... Oh, to make it easier for anyone. Not right now. There is not a chance on this green earth that they're going to change a law to make it easier for immigrants right now. I mean, do you know what we're fighting for? The way that they have these ridiculous masked men get out of these unmarked vans and just pull people off the street like the Gestapo. I mean, right now we're fighting for democracy, okay? There's no way that they're going to be reasonable and make laws that are easier for immigrants. So I have had to fight harder than ever to maintain the democracy and the constitutional rights. I mean, to be honest, on one hand, some of the stuff they're doing is so unconstitutional. It goes over the line so far that it doesn't even take a creative lawyer to make the constitutional arguments that the Constitution's in violation. I mean, over the years, the decades I practiced, I practice in the gray area, and I make really good arguments when it's on the line. But it's not even on the line. I mean, the violations of the Constitution are atrocious. Okay? That's why, like in California, Governor Newsom just signed a bill which said no masks and identification needed for anyone who's going to be presenting themselves as an officer, which some people might say, well, that's going to interfere with the federal law. Well, there is no federal law that says that you have to mask yourself and look like the Gestapo and act like the Gestapo. Okay, there's no federal law that says that. So it is not interfering with a federal law. Okay, so when you're saying, like, is there immigration reform on the table? Not now. Not a chance. What you have to do is you have to fight within the constraints of what the law is now. Okay? You have to understand that they're going to do everything they can do to ignore the Constitution, to violate your rights, to do everything they can to get their bonus, to get more people in detention, whether they're U.S. citizens or not, because they don't look white. Okay? So maybe in the future, when there's a reasonable person who's a president who follows the Constitution, and when there are the Republicans in Congress who don't just let the president do everything he wants to do as he takes this country down an authoritarian regime, will there be immigration reform? Don't even think now it's going to happen. It won't. Think now of doing what you have to do to maintain your rights and to save whatever rights you have to go forward. Now, that doesn't mean that, for example, if you're sitting there and you're unlawful, that there might not be something you can do. Call my office. Get a consultation. Find out what can be done to help you right now under the constraints of the law that we have now. Okay? There we go. You made me get up on my soapbox. But that's how it is. Okay. This is from Bolo. If you only have completed primary school, can you apply for a green card? Well, I mean, the answer is yes. It's harder. Okay? And Bolo, were you the one that was asking about leaving the airport on a transit? I think it was. Okay. It was. Bolo, you've got to stop thinking the way you're thinking here. I'll tell you what's in your mind. You're thinking that you can come to the U.S. on a transit visa, where it says, you're going to come to LAX and then you're going to, transfer to whatever so you can go to New Mexico or whatever it is, or so that you can head back. Okay. And you think you're going to walk out of the U.S., the airport with a transit visa and magically apply for a green card. And then later you say that you have a primary school education. That won't work. First of all, to apply for the green card, where you don't have a college degree and so forth. I mean, I don't know if you have 2 years experience doing whatever you're doing, but they do have perm for unskilled labor. But to apply for a green card, you need to do the perm, then the I-140, and then the adjustment if you qualify. That takes years. And when you walk out of the airport with a transit visa, which gives you a day, give or take, to leave, you start accruing unlawful presence. Once you have 6 months of unlawful presence, you can't come back for 3 years. Once you have a year of unlawful presence, you can't come back for 10 years. And even then, if you apply for the green card, you're going to need a waiver to get past those, okay, through consulate processing. And if you don't have any U.S. relatives, which you don't because you're asking for employment, then you're not going to qualify for a waiver. And for sure, you're going to have to go out after 10 years. And when you wait 10 years, the employer who petitioned you and put all that work in, they're not going to want you after a decade. They're going to say goodbye. Okay? Don't do what you're doing. Okay? It won't work. You think it will. You think you can. But I'm telling you it won't. Okay? Rather, give my office a call. I will let you know what non-immigrant visas, real non-immigrant visas you might qualify for, and then let you know the procedure for doing it and how it needs to be done. Okay? I'll also see what else you might qualify for on the immigrant side of it. Okay? You obviously haven't done what you're intending on doing yet, so there's still an opportunity for you not to do it, because I'm telling you right now it's not going to work. Okay? All righty. I bet you did. Oh, let's see. This is from The Chosen. Can someone get denaturalized years later if the government finds out that the person derives citizenship? Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You don't get denaturalized because you qualify for derivative citizenship. I mean, technically, if that's the case, you're already a citizen and you have already derived citizenship based on the various facts. And you should have applied for derivative citizenship through what's called the N-600 or the U.S. passport. If, in fact, they find out that you should have done that, I got to be honest with you, in 30-some years, I've never seen a case like that. The reason they denaturalize is because they find out you got your naturalization through fraud, okay? Or you lied about something, or you didn't qualify for something, or you didn't disclose something. Not because you qualify for derivative citizenship. If you qualify for derivative citizenship, why worry about getting denaturalized? Just apply now for derivative citizenship. You can still apply for derivative citizenship even if you've been naturalized. I mean, it can still be done, okay? You are welcome, Moy. All right. Well, that will conclude our live for today. More in the coming days. All right, everybody.